guys, today we're going to be reviewing the M440i from BMW. It's the one with the controversial grille, but we're here to actually test drive it and see how it does perform. This is the first time it's sporting an M badge on the 440, and it's putting out 275 kilowatts of power at 500 newton meters of torque with BMW's xDrive technology. So first things first, is this a sports car or a luxury car or both? We're going to have a look today at how this performs around a few corners, and we're going to see how quick it actually does accelerate based off what BMW have said. We've got a race box to check out how quickly we're going to go, and we're also going to put it through the test through some corners and get back to you about whether or not we actually believe this is still a bit of a sports car. So we're going to start with the steering wheel here. This is one point of difference that I found with the previous generation, and that is that this steering wheel has that 5 Series kind of feel. It is a bit more clunky in the sense where you're getting a lot more buttons, but obviously it has that nice kind of luxury feel, and that's what I believe that these G Series are looking for at the moment. The digital dash is amazing. Compared to what we had before, when you've got that analog dash, this digital dash is absolute wonders. On both sides, you've got your speed, you've got your revs, and in the middle, you've actually got a GPS in the background. So you don't need to keep on looking to the center console to be able to figure out where you're going. So this M440i comes with the M Sport seat option, and if I was buying this car, I would definitely choose it. The leather's actually really nice, it feels really good, and the seats actually do hug you enough, but also has that luxury feeling within it too. And that's one of the things that we need to be conscious of, because when we are going on these long drives or we're going on a spirited drive, I want to be able to feel comfortable at the end of the drive, and I want to be able to feel planted when I'm actually getting in on it. So one of the things to note is that when you do actually change from comfort to sport, and you've got a sport individual setting, which I've just set now, if we then go to have a look at the driver assistance and configure that, we have set it so that at this point I've turned off pretty much all of the side collision warnings, the lane departure warnings, lane change warnings, and the steering intervention. However, this doesn't actually stop all of the interventions from occurring. The car will still try to stop you from leaving your lane. And as we can see here, I've got it in sport individual and it's still correcting me. I am trying to move out and then it is naturally correcting itself. So in order to turn this off, what we have to actually do is go to the actual button there to go to the driver assistance, and it will come up with all on, individual, all off, or to configure. In order to turn it off, we just need to hold this button for 3 seconds. It does turn it all off, and now if we do start departing our lane, the car isn't going to correct itself when we're in the opposite lane. One more interesting thing to note about the interior is the fact that the reverse camera also comes with a bird's eye view camera. This was standard on the M3 and M4, but on the M140, 240, and all the other M lights, this wasn't something that came as standard. So it is refreshing to see that they've put this in, because I used it a lot on my M4. So onto the driving component. I've actually found that this xDrive on the M440 performs a lot better than what I thought it would. I'm usually an advocate for a rear-wheel drive car, because I've always believed that an all-wheel drive car would understeer. But the way that this has been developed, the car doesn't feel like it's going to understeer. In actual fact, the car is really well designed that you don't get that body roll mid-corner. So it's actually quite confidence inspiring. And when you're going around a corner, you feel like you can throw the car at the corner and then mid-corner get on the gas really pleasantly, and it pulls out of the corner really well. So from driving this car, I found that the optimal rev range does sit around 3,000. Now, that's generally normal for a road car and for the previous generation of F-Series as well. and this is going to be a stock standard thing, I would say, throughout all of the vehicles. So if you do want to stay in that performance band, we're really wanting to get into that $3,000. As you can see now, pushing it right through this corner, it is really picking up nice speed. So in comparison to the previous generation, I've found that this car, because it has less body roll, actually performs better than the previous 440. And even though these G series are actually quite heavy compared to their predecessors, I think the geometry and the balancing that BMW has come out with makes up for this extra weight that we've got. I am actually thoroughly impressed with the performance of the engine. When I saw this, I really thought it was going to be underwhelming. But when this car does pick up and you are in the power band, it really does show its strength. And it shows why this is the new 440 and this is the new engine that's going to be putting this car back on the map against your other competitors. We measured the 0 to 100 time at 4.51 seconds on our race box. BMW claims that it's at 4.5 seconds for a 0 to 100, and we can say with confidence that this car will do that. Now, with all that said, one of the things I do feel like this car lacks is that initial bite on braking. From what I have seen, the calipers are around the same size as the previous models, but it doesn't seem to pull up as quick, or it doesn't feel like it's pulling up as quick. And I think that's got to do with the fact that the G series has a bit more weight, and that weight is obviously giving that feeling that we're not able to stop. But the xDrive system is actually aiding us in being able to stop quicker and turn in, and it doesn't really affect the confidence overall. So one of the things I've found with this car is that due to the electronic steering, it doesn't seem to react as quickly as I would like it, but it doesn't take away from the confidence of the car in the corner. So when you're driving forward, when you put an input, generally it takes a while for the car, and it's only minuscule, but you can feel it when you do actually input some sort of steering. Again, with that said, once the car has actually turned in, and that initial turn in is the part that's probably the hardest, once you're at about a quarter turn, the car really finds its element and it feels very planted within the corner. So where does that put this car on the market? Well, this M440 is around 137,000 drive away. The M3 and the M4 that's coming out later on in this year is priced at roughly 180,000 at a base. And with options that you know you're going to get, you're going to be pushing around the $200,000 mark. Now, obviously this car comes with the M Sport seats, and that's a consideration when looking at the pricing. But it is $40,000 or to $60,000 cheaper than the M3 or M4. And the engine is performing at a level which is going to be somewhat close. Now, I'm not saying that this is a sports car. I'm not saying that it is a luxury car, but it is definitely something that's in between. And that's the kind of enthusiast that you want in this car. Someone who can appreciate a bit of both, but it doesn't need to be as raw and as powerful as an M3 and M4. So where does this put this car in the market as compared to other manufacturers? Well, Mercedes has a C43, which is a 6-cylinder twin turbo, and the 6-cylinder single turbo in the M440i has very similar performance characteristics. So it's something to say from the fact that BMW is actually able to get that performance from a single turbo. Now, the Audi market, you're probably looking at something like an S or an RS, but frankly, if you're a car enthusiast, you're probably not going to worry about an Audi. So one of the things that people are always asking about is, how does the exhaust sound? Now, we're going to pull over now, we're going to open up the windows, and we're going to have a listen to how the exhaust sounds and compare it to the previous models. Now, obviously, any car that comes out from here on in, from the factory, has to come out with emissions laws and sound and decibel readings that have to meet criteria. And if somebody does want to modify it, I'm sure there's always going to be aftermarket options for exhaust. this looks like a nice place to stop, and we can test out this exhaust and have a look at the view. We're going to keep these windows down. We're going to start in comfort first. I've put the car in neutral. Let's have a listen. Let's put it in sport, and all of a sudden you can hear it's already got a deep tone. And let's put it in sport individual. So as you can hear, it is audibly different, and you get a nice little rumble in the sport individual because we have set it as a sport plus. In your sport, you're still getting that nice sound, but it doesn't have that rumble. And obviously in the comfort, going back to it, it is pretty tame. Now it still has a nice 6-cylinder groan, so that's one good thing that I'm happy with. So in conclusion, I think this is a great car for the price that you're paying. You are getting a bit of sport, you're getting a bit of luxury, but it is a new design, and BMW has thought really well about that xDrive system that we talked about. If you are interested in looking into one of these, get down to Melbourne BMW Southbank. We'd like to thank Christian for letting us have the car. And if you have any queries, any questions, or if you want to get a good price on one of these, head over down to Southbank and have a chat with Christian, and he'll look after you. Thanks, guys.